Hello. Hi, Lindy. How you doing? Did you want to check your microphone or anything while I'm, yeah? Mm-hmm. Ah, wasn't even looking at chat. No, I can't hear you. I'm presuming that you've said something. Yeah, go for it. I've had all fun and games with mine. Or just try refreshing first.
You are currently the only person in this conference. You are currently the only person in this conference. You are currently the only person in this conference. You are currently the only person in this conference.
Oh, okay. Otherwise, if anybody's listening to this, you get to hear my humming.
Hello, Vinny.
Yeah! Woo, 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 woo.
Hey! Oh, the fun and games of the adrenaline rush before you present.
Oh no, it's nerve-wracking, isn't it?
It's a bit. How did yours go earlier today?
It was cool. I've done the same one twice. Yeah, it's wicked. I loved it actually. I was really really happy about it. I've kind of for both of the
Last
presentations.
night.
Again, sorry.
I loved the intro music last night.
I, yeah, I just Because it's always a little bit weird, isn't it? That the quiet, the quietness when you join a room and waiting for the
It's
presenter
almost
to say something.
spooky.
Yeah, that's why I like to have a little something going on. Um, yeah, so both of them, I kind of set myself quite difficult challenges. Um, just why not? Just for a bit of fun. Otherwise, it's a bit pointless if you just do something that's easy. Like yours, I notice yours is a challenge. Was that a challenge to you or a challenge to your viewers?
Both.
Oh,
The
okay.
last one I did, the
Yes.
technology failed massively, so
Oh, God.
we'll see how we go. Oh no,
So,
it's
yeah,
fine. That's part of the fun.
cool. Yeah, so I was really, really, really pleased. The first time round, it was had about 20 something people. Second time around, I was up against, didn't say up against, I was back to back with,
It is though, isn't it?
yeah, I've never kind of thought that before, but yeah, I was on at the same time as Christina Hollis doing quizzes and question types. Um, I still got about half a dozen, eight people, something like that, which is okay, but I was hoping for a few more. But and I'm sure people will go back and look at it again, and it was really interactive. There was all tasks for them to do and quizzes and things like that. It was really cool. And so they did towards the end of both of my sessions today. They did some nice interactive, collaborative activities as well, creating some content. Oh yeah, it's cool. Really cool. Really pleased. I'm also quite
Good
pleased
when you
that.
get them interacting with you.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, it's kind of like, what's the point? People could just go and watch a YouTube video if it's just explaining how to do something, how to use something. Um, yeah, you got to have that engagement and get them to get them to do something with what you're trying to put across. If people were just passively listening to a presenter talking, it's just in one ear and out the other ear. They're not going to retain any of it. Um, get them to use it. But anyway. Right,
I do, but I
right.
also think I tend to
Yeah,
be a
go on.
bit of a lurker in presentations. It takes me a bit longer to kind of catch on, I guess.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm running backwards and forwards at the moment. I'm sort of in between giving my daughter a dinner, so I shall be back in about 2 or 3 minutes to introduce you. Um,
Thank you. I'm
hopefully, hopefully there'll be some people. If not, I guess you get to
the
meet
other
too.
presenter is Michael Durat, so if it's completely empty, I'm just going to watch his.
Yeah. I saw his the first time round. It's cool. It's good. Really good. Uh, yeah. Okay, I'll be back in a couple of minutes anyway. I'm going to mute my microphone.
You there, Vinny?
Yeah.
You there? We've got a couple of help desk queries coming through on the live chat. Are you or Dom looking at those?
I'm gonna, I will do. I will do. I'll jump
Okay.
in a minute. I haven't got mine switched on yet.
No stress. I'm just going to jump out of chat so I can focus on this.
But, um, you need to set yourself as a, and if I mute everybody apart from
Hello, Christine.
Hi, this is Vinny from the iMoot team and Pukunui. Just to welcome you all to Lindy's session. Can you all hear me okay? Excellent. So, yeah, I'd like to welcome you to Lindy Klein's session. Is there a template for online learning? Lindy is another one of the Pukunui team working in Sydney with Julian. I hope you enjoy the presentation. Over to you, Lindy.
Thanks, Vinny. And hello, folks. This time around, I'm actually turning the video on, which is something I don't often do because I'm very camera shy. One of the folks on the forums in the social lounge mentioned that it's actually easier if the audio is being choppy to do some lip syncing. So I'm giving it a go. This presentation is very much about giving things a go. I know it's very late in iMoot proceedings, so thank you for those of you who are here and staying up at very odd hours to watch presentations. I hope you've had a really great iMoot experience so far. A little bit about me and where I'm from. This particular presentation is kind of driven from where I'm from. I did university support work as an online educator for quite a while, and I often got frustrated with templates being applied to online courses that weren't necessarily supporting online learning. So what I want to look at with you guys in this presentation is how are templates being used in online learning, and is it actually supporting the learning, or are there some different things in the mix there that we really need to be a little more consciously aware of? I've promised at the outset from this that you walk away from the presentation with a tool that helps you process these kind of templates a little bit better. So I'll elaborate more on what that tool is as we go. Let's get on with the show. So I also promised that there would be active engagement happening in this particular presentation, and I'm starting it right up front. I know the links can't be clicked in the presentation, so bear with me while I type some of these out. This is just the forum activity in the presentation course space. So for those of you who have another screen open and it's easier to get to that way, by all means go and click on it there. Otherwise, hit the link there. Some of you I know have already had a quick look at this, which I really appreciate. Others, you may have had a quick look but not actually put anything in there yet. It's only a quick task. The whole point of looking at online learning in that forum space is to get a sense of what your experience already is, because it's hard to process what a template might do for online learning if you haven't had much experience of it before. Your experience may have been as a student or as, like myself, a support person helping along others who are building courses, or a teacher right at the coalface. I'm very fortunate. I've got 20 years experience doing both distance and online learning. So obviously online learning hasn't been around quite 20 years yet, so there's a blend in there. Most of my understanding of online learning is driven by that distance experience of student learning. Hopefully you've all had a chance to go in and have a look at that particular forum question, get a sense of what your own experience of online learning is and that of your peers. And yes, we're all peers here. It's very cool. And one more activity before we launch into the rest of it. This is a quick polling exercise. So for those of you who've kind of come in here going, well, not entirely sure about all this, I need some convincing, I'd actually like to get a sense from you what you think the role of templates is. Is there actually a template for learning? So I've put the link into the chat stream, so you can click on it and have a quick look. And it is just a choice activity in the course space for this one. I'm going to have a quick look at it now so I can see what the results are as we go on. Give you guys a chance to go and have a look at it. While you're clicking along there, I know there is a little bit of lag in the slides loading up and the chat picking up the links, so I'm trying to be patient. Patience is not one of my virtues. There is kind of a trick in the question that I've posed here. I've specifically said, is there a template for online learning? And I think it's important to reflect back on, well, what is a template anyway? There's a very good reason why I've got the image here of the cookie cutter and the gingerbread man. It's one. Anna, the choice link was hidden until you've done the feedback link. Give me 2 seconds and I'll unhide it for everybody. This is what I get for being too clever with my presentations. Every once in a while I do overthink things. So most of us are familiar with the idea of the cookie cutter man or the gingerbread man, and a cookie cutter being used to make sure that they're all the same shape, the same size, the same sort of quality coming out as we cook them. Those of you who have very small children will also be familiar with the notion that a cookie cutter is all well and good, but you will end up with 5-inch thick biscuits at some point along the way. Those of you trying to get access to that choice, it's now been revealed. Christine, you're quite right. The template can be a starting block, which is what I kind of want to elaborate on here. What I see templates being used for is to get that sense of organized thought around how to build an online course, because especially with Moodle. Moodle is a very big tool, and if you're coming into it as a teacher who's not used it very much before, it can be quite inundating to see that whole list of activities and resource types available and not really know where to start. So a gingerbread man is something like a template or a set of blueprint instructions for this is how you build your course. You put your news forum at the top, and that can be used to broadcast information to your students. And you put your contact me block up at the side, and that can be used to kind of help them get in touch with you. It breaks down components that make it easier for you to get started building your course. One of the good things about having a blueprint like this is it helps for that quality assurance process from an organizational perspective. If you can say that all your courses have the help link in the top right-hand corner, it makes it a lot easier for you to generate help manuals for your students. If you get stuck, click on the link in the top right-hand corner. I've also seen templates being used for consistency of presentation, and that example I just gave is kind of a blur of the two. Yes, it's a quality assurance thing because we want to have that same consistency. We want to make sure all our students can get help from wherever they are within our site. But we don't just want a help block somewhere on the page. We want it up in the top right-hand corner, so consistently in the same space, so we can tell our students that this is where you can get help from. You'll notice those particular gingerbread men all look exactly the same, and this is kind of what I dislike about templates. You end up with this manufactured sameness to them that can be quite frustrating. And my biggest frustration with templates is, what about the learning side of things? So we've got our teachers started with building their courses, and we've made sure they've got 1 forum, 3 resources, and a quiz. But we're not actually thinking about how do these activities support our students' learning. And although I say it with a bit of a smile, I have seen a template that set down this is what courses that this organisation will have. So I draw a distinction when templates are appropriate and when they're not. For me, it's a question of purpose. We've looked at the idea of presentation, so our iced gingerbread men with the, not the jelly drop buttons. We've looked at quality assurance, so compliance with maybe internal processes or maybe external auditor requirements. But for me, there also needs to be some mindfulness of what the learning design is. So I'm reaching for the word epistemology just because I know it's in Martin's thesis, which is shocking. But what's our theory of learning that we want to bring into our course design? And knowing that theory of learning, you can then use it to model how you want to build up your activities. I think there are multiple elements that contribute to an online course, and they can belong in any one-purpose camp. And I've seen this demonstrated. I personally think some things like icons belong quite firmly in the presentation camp. But this not being the first time I've run this presentation or had this discussion, I've seen other educators, administrators, even IT folks go, well, no, clearly that's in the learning design because you want them to be able to get through easily and have a sense of familiarity about where they are in the course. Or no, clearly it's about quality assurance, it's compliance. They must use the icons that the organisation provides. So you've got kind of competing interests coming together in that melting pot of course design. And when you've got an element that belongs in more than one camp, and most of them can, it gets kind of tense trying to work out, well, is this the area of the course designer or the content expert or the technology support area or the organisation admin as a whole? This is just a sampling of elements. There's font size, there's use of activities, whether it's for assessment or for practice purposes, there's use of multimedia, and I'm sure there's lots more. So for one more collaborative activity we've got happening here, I'll type it into the chat. And I have to confess, folks, this is where the last session of this fell over horribly, horribly wrong. So I'm very grateful to Teresa Gibbison, even though she's not here at the moment. I know where she is. I'm very grateful that she introduced me to this tool because hopefully it will make life a lot easier for us. So have a look at padlet.com/wall/template for learning, or is a number, and let's see what elements we can come up with. It's a very easy tool to use. It's publicly available, so if any of you are having trouble accessing it, please let me know. Just while folks are going there, I'm going to review the responses to that first choice activity, so let's see what people think. We've got a couple who are not convinced, and a few who kind of go, yeah, there can be, which is really inspiring, actually. I'm kind of impressed with that. Folks, when we're looking at the elements that make up a course, we're looking at structure, visible side of things that help a student navigate and get around comfortably, informational content both from the course's expert knowledge base and from the organisational perspective. What do our students need to know here to be able to get on with doing the course? Dean, you're quite right. Objectives are really important. And I'm really glad people are managing to get into the Padlet board. That's awesome. I think icons are kind of important. I'm going to add those in. Hopefully you get the idea, folks. We've got a lot of different elements coming together here. Feel free to keep adding them to that board too. As an extension to this activity, we've got a feedback exercise where we mix and match elements of the course into the different templates. So we've got interactivity and where to start added here. Clear structure, absolutely. I'm going to suggest that we start kind of moving these items around a bit. So Christina, I would put resources in learning design template. I can't spell at all when I'm under pressure. Terrible. For those of you who want to have a go at this, I know, Christina, I have more screens than you can poke a stick at because my partner has loaned me his laptop as well. It really helps to have a couple of machines when you're doing online presenting. And for those of you who haven't seen it, I really should repost the photo Julian sent up on Twitter of our office space at the moment. He has a bank of 6 screens for monitoring iMoot happening there. It's quite insane. But for those of you who want to have a go at the feedback activity while I continue on with the presentation, please do. The results of that feedback activity are available as soon as you complete it. And essentially all you're doing is going, this element of an online course belongs in this type of template. What I love about this exercise is, this would be the third time that I've run it. I see people putting each of those elements in each of those 3 different templates, so there's no overwhelming yes to all of these icons belong in the presentation template. Every time I run it, I get people who go, well, it could belong to any of the 3, which is, I think, rather interesting. Because when we approach these conversations at an institutional perspective, it's often that, well, the results are obvious. Icons belong in presentation. That's just so blindingly obvious. Why would you even argue it? I think part of the problem with using templates in educational organisations is we don't have the discussion around why we're using it and why these particular elements are being associated with that purpose. It's very frustrating, particularly from an educator's perspective, to be told you must use this set of icons and nothing else, because we all want to personalise that learning experience for our students. I'm sure there are very compelling reasons for going, no, you must use this standard icon set or this set of assessment activities or this type of resource. But it doesn't allow for our educators to go, well, that's not really my thing. Those of you who are having trouble seeing this, I'm going to try and blow it up just a little bit. I promise I will get to better sized screen on this particular shot in just a moment. This is a snippet of one of the courses that we're building at the moment, and it kind of demonstrates these principles that I'm talking through. We've got a consistent set of icons at the top, and I'm trying to move my cursor very slowly so I don't give anyone vertigo. So at the top, we've got our very consistent set of icons. I apologise, my drawing skills are truly horrendous. Over to the side, again, we've got both consistent use of icons, but we've also got a template that's being used for quality assurance purposes. We'll get to this in just a moment. And down in the middle, I give up on drawing here, folks. We've got our set of activities, and some of these are being used from a learning design perspective, and others are being used from a presentation style. For presentation and navigation, we've got our consistent set of icons that are being used at the top of the course, so we use topic 0 for this purpose. But we've also got completion time as one of the icons here. These are adult learners we're working with. We want them to understand how much time they need to set aside before they continue on with the next section, because as an adult learner myself, I find it extremely frustrating to sit down to do some study only to find that it's going to take me twice as long as I intended to get through that particular section. If I know how long it's anticipated to take, I can set that time aside so I can get on with it better. So I've got more of a learning flow happening. We've also got help and a quick check icon happening here. Now the help one is more from a navigation perspective. We want our students to make sure they've always got a help icon up in the top right hand corner. They can always get to help very quickly and easily. But immediately below that, we've got our quick check area, which allows our students to go in and do a quick quiz just to check their knowledge before they continue on with the course. Again, adult learners, they're coming from all sorts of different experiences. We want them to be able to test their knowledge and work out which bits of this particular module they need to focus on before they continue on. This is also part of the compliance for this course though, because it's finally assessed in rather large exam. We want to make sure our students get a feel for that quiz in small chunks before they go into the final one. Topic 1 in each of our modules is devoted to a module overview, and again we've got a consistent use of icons and explanations here, so our students get used to seeing that information at the top of every course. In terms of our actual learning content, we've got consistency of use in terminology for each of our tasks. So a how-to task is a resource that has both a video and a textual explanation of a particular skill or practice. A mission is generally an assessment task. They need to go in and do something that matches up against our learning outcomes. But you'll also notice we've got some hidden activities here. Discussion points are forums that, although not assessment pieces, they allow our students to reflect more on what it is that we're setting up for them. Food for thought is a passive resource, but intended to spark off conversation in following activities. So we've tried to keep our terminology across activities and across modules quite consistent so our students understand what we're looking at. There's also a hidden reason for using the term mission for assessment tasks. I find adult learners have got a lot of experience with going through assignments, exams, quizzes, tests, and most of the time those terms bring out an immediate anxiety before you even get to looking at what the task is. The use of the terminology mission, and you could use any other word for the same sort of purpose. The use of the terminology mission is intended to inspire a little bit of fun and lessen that barrier to actually engaging with the activity. I consider that part of our learning design template. It's not there for aesthetic purposes, it's certainly not there for quality assurance, but it's very much part of building up that learning design that helps our students engage with our courses. Now, I asked you at the start to complete a choice activity. This is exactly the same choice, but I kind of want to get a sense of if I've given any of you something to think about, if I've maybe changed your mind a little bit or encouraged you to steer more one way or the other. So I'll type the address in, but it is the very last activity in the course space. Absolutely, Carol. We really, both in this presentation and in our courses, we really want our students to be interactive with the courseware, to get the most out of it and to let us know how they're going with it. So although we've put in quite a lot of detailed video and text how-tos, we've also put in a lot of activities that require them to link that how-to back to their own existing practice and existing circumstances, so that they can get a sense of, okay, that's something that I can do, but how does it relate to what I already do? And now I'm talking more about learning and teaching styles. But I do think that a template for online learning has to take into account the different teaching styles in your organisation. And the trouble with creating a template for it is that not everybody teaches the same, and certainly not everybody learns the same. At Pukunui, I'm very fortunate. I only work with a couple of other people in designing this course, and we're all very much on the same page with our thinking around how people learn online. So I'm very fortunate to be with a group of people who kind of agree with where I'm going anyway. But when you're in a larger organisation, it gets harder and harder to create that kind of template and expect that people will adhere to it. So it becomes more about, well, we must have this minimum baseline of adherence to the template, because that's our minimum quality assurance to our students. And we confuse purposes when we do that. And it's really quite sad. We cannot promise a quality experience to our students without taking into account how our teachers are actually comfortable teaching. And if we enforce an adherence to a template, we're not doing that. I think there's plenty of room for, well, you must use a template for quality assurance, so these particular things have to be part of your course, but you can build up on that. I noticed a comment from Stuart in the forum that templates are often seen, he's seeing templates used more as a lazy way of designing courses. And sadly, I kind of have to agree with that. Where I've seen templates used in larger organisations, it gives teachers a way of going, oh, well, I've done what the template required, I won't bother with anything else. Because it's an argument to bother with anything else. And as they start putting creative stuff in there, they're actually running against the template, and that causes problems down the line. Absolutely, Carol. Accessibility is a big issue anywhere where you're doing online learning, as far as I'm concerned, and it's not really considered anywhere near enough. So when you're looking at it from a learning design issue, if I want to put multimedia into my course, but I'm putting it up as a flash file or a QuickTime file, then I'm not really ensuring that all my students can access it. In fact, I'm being quite exclusionary. And a lot of teachers will do that just because they don't know either how to put that file into another format that actually works, or that it even is an accessibility issue, which is kind of sad. Hopefully I'm talking to people who do know that's an accessibility issue. Hopefully I haven't offended anyone there. I'm going to quickly come into the last choice activity that I set for you guys and have a look at it. See if I've made a dent. Oh, it turns out I have made a dent. That's very cool. I'm glad I've convinced a few people. Oh, absolutely. Subtitles are really important, but the more you look at accessibility, the more you realize there's a lot of work to do to make a course fully accessible. And a lot of people will go, well, at least I've got something there. So I think it's important to look at accessibility is important, but we need to get something there a lot of the time just to get the ball rolling. If you look at course design as not a process where there's an end product and that's the end of the line, but as a sequence. So every time you run a course, you make it a little bit better. And you improve on the elements that you've put in it, and you make sure that they're more and more accessible, engaging for your students, relevant. That looking at a course as a developing living thing is to me really important. It may start with a template, but it shouldn't end there. I realise now I'm kind of venturing into rant territory, so I'll slow myself down a little bit here. This conversation is really important to me because we get a lot of folks asking, what's best practice? How can I build a template for my staff to use for building their courses? So I really want to get you guys engaged with talking about what is best practice around here. How do we get people building fantastic online courses? Because I think we owe it to ourselves and our students to do that as much as possible. I'm going to thank you all very much for coming and open up for questions. And Christine, I'm sorry, I'm just reading what you put into the chat now. Christine, that first point you've raised, we're just learning about heading styles and accessibility. We never realised how important they were. Yes, they're extremely important. I come from a web designer background, so they are extremely important. But I would actually see that as being part of the presentation template. The support staff around you should be making sure that the theme for your Moodle site and the style sheets that are included with it make sure that those headings and the style around them are accessible for your students and your staff. As far as timing sections goes, you're quite right, that can be a little bit tricky, especially when you're trying to teach a group coming through all together. If you've got students who are taking longer and some who are flying through it, you can end up with a bit of discord there in the course. I have to say, though, one of my favourite features in Moodle is conditional release and access. I think that is just fantastic. Anna, that's a really good point. Would you like to elaborate on it more? Feel free to take the mic. Or I can hand it to you. I promised, and Anna's just made a comment, I need to find that balance. I promised that at the end of this, you'd walk away with a tool to help find that balance. The tool is actually really simple. We've started it with that Padlet board of actually breaking down what each of those elements in an online course is, because you can't work out what your purpose is until you know where all those elements fit. It's wonderful to have templates to get you started, and certainly if you're ending up with messy courses, then a template for presentation or a template for quality assurance, that can be a great starting point. We must have at least this layout, but there needs to be some flexion in it for your teaching and learning staff to be able to get creative, because a course is just as much an expression of the person teaching it as it is anything else. The tool that I'm offering then is go back to your organisation, write down the elements. Feel free to take them out of the feedback activity we've just done or from the Padlet board we were looking at. Write them down and discuss with your colleagues, how do we separate these out? Where do we put these? and then develop your templates based on the purpose for each of those elements. Carol, I'm not familiar with CRESS. Can you elaborate on what it is? You know your audience really well. Carol's made the comment there, supporting students with learning difficulties helps me understand what to do as I design courses. Knowing your audience's requirements really well really does help you design better courses. When you're designing for a generic student, it can be quite frustratingly difficult. Folks, that really is all there is for me. So if you've got questions or you'd like to discuss it more, I would be more than willing to. But I'm also very conscious I'm not the only person presenting in this time slot. So for those of you who are keeping an ear on 2 presentations at the same time, feel free. I will have to look that reference up. Thank you, Carol. That's wonderful. That's my pleasure, Christina. Thank you very much for joining in. Appreciate it.
And this is Vinny again. I'll just jump back in and say thank you very much, Lindy. That was great. That was really informative. I look forward to having a play with some of the tools that you've shown us. Thanks to everybody else who participated.
Hopefully, Anna, you've got something to help focus that thinking a little more. Most welcome, Karen. Appreciate it.